Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Metaphysical Egypt. Alan Peoples again with Patricia Awion Lehman. Take it away.
Serpents, dragons, and lions. Oh my. Or did I say that right? Oh my. We're going to have fun with this one, but it is it's going to be an interesting episode because we are going to talk about serpents, dragons, and lions and how they express in our mythology, and what they're really expressing is something even more profound. What we're looking at here, I mean, we're going to see these soon, but we see Mary Magdalene, and she has 6 serpents, dragons attached to her. So yeah, this, as I said, it'll be fun. And of course, we have the serpent. I think it's from the Wall of Edfu, and it has 5 knives sticking in it, 5 deaths, and a line of currency above it. You know, what are we talking about? Cycles, of course.
You know, it's amazing that this dragon mythology is really found all over the world. For a mythological creature, something that doesn't really exist, how did all of these cultures come up with the same idea for this being?
Well, exactly. It is fascinating how that works. And of course, there are many ways to understand how that worked in ancient times. Because I think consciousness, you know, it was a right brain consciousness in very, very ancient times, or more right brain than we are now. We're almost fully left-brained at this point. And the right brain is more connected to everything that is, you know, currency itself. They feel the currents. They, you know, we've talked about this many times. So they, you know, consciousness all over that span the world. There is no time and space. That's the illusion we've talked about as well. So that knowing, you know, when this all comes, you know, comes into being as words and oral and written language come into form, and that they use figures as icons, you know, metaphors, you know, this is how mythology is developed. Really isn't a surprise that there are so many similarities. There's also differences for the same concepts. So that, you know, as we migrate through time and space, things do change, names, languages, things like that. So it's all about cycles. And I brought this in because the stuff we're going to be talking about in the next few episodes, maybe a lot of them, and even what we've already talked to, really requires an open mind. And this is from Alvin Toffler, and he says, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. We need to realize that a lot of what's been written was not based on, how do you explain it? It was based on what they had before them at that time. But, you know, we've seen this, of course, over and over and again with how, you know, reinventions of things or new discoveries of things we thought we knew. And we need to be prepared to literally let go of what we think we know. You know, Hakeem said it all the time, and open our minds to an entirely different understanding of our reality.
Right. This is how science works.
Exactly.
New evidence leads to new perceptions of reality.
Well, exactly. And, you know, in the age we're moving into, and we're going to talk about AI in the future, but just consider, you know, that AI is going to become a reality. And the reality is we won't know what's real anymore. So, you know, this is a time to really go within and figure out who we are.
And it doesn't mean that our current perception of things is wrong. It just means that it could be incomplete.
Well, exactly. Well, yeah, and maybe just opening our minds to another way of seeing it, whatever it is that we think we know. Our senses are faulty. But again, we've talked about this a lot. So now I am going to ask you to jump out of all those old ideas and beliefs and open your minds to a whole new way of understanding symbols and mythologies. So here we are. I'm going to talk about, again, right ascension, left ascension. What is right ascension? It's the way we spin. It's, you know, the earth itself spins and we see the sun rise in the east and set in the west. Well, if there's a right ascension, and right ascension is Ra, right? That's what the ancient Egyptians, Cometians, called their sun. Ra, right ascension. You know, we in the Bible it says, you know, Jesus rises and sitteth on the right hand of God the Father Almighty, right ascension. But what happens if there is a left ascension? A La, if you will. We're going to talk about that. And so I bring back the concept of the churning of the milk on the world axis. And it's, you know, occurring, you know, between the divas and the divas, right? The demons and the gods in a perpetual fight, churning the milk, which is moving something back and forth. So it's like going one way and then reversing direction. It's not doing a full linear circle. It's back and forth. And they're churning, you know, the world into being in a way. And each time, you know, it's going one way or the other, maybe churning the world into not being. The gods who have become weakened as a result of a curse by the irascible sage Devas, think of currency out of control, invited the Asuras to help them recover the elixir of immortality. I think that's where we're at now. It's time to recover that elixir of immortality. We are mortal. They want to go back to immortality, two sides, one way or the other. The Amrita from the depths of the cosmic ocean, which is the Amrita from the depths of the cosmic ocean. Mount Mandara, a spur of Mount Meru, which is the world axis, was torn out to use as a churning stick and was steadied at the bottom of the ocean by Vishnu and his avatar, or incarnation, as the tortoise, Kurma. The Asuras held the head of the Naga, which is Vasuki, and he is the seven-headed serpent here, who was procured for a churning rope, and the gods held his tail. The churning of the ocean provided many wonderful treasures, and that this came from Britannica. This seven-headed serpent is Draco. And we see this churning back and forth because, you know, when we look at Draco in the heavens and the stars, we see him spinning and turning because the earth is spinning and turning. So what if he spins one way and then the other? That means the earth is spinning one way and then the other.
Right.
So it's a journey of perception. Again, think right brain, left brain, understanding, consciousness. The image at the right, beautiful image from a papyrus. I might be in the net. I'm not sure, Alan. But you see Thoth on either side of, and each one has their own symbol of Pet, the heavens above it. It's not like one big sky. And you see, you know, it almost looks like they're churning an axis, doesn't it? As consciousness itself.
Well, it looks like, you know, a perfect mirror image of each other.
Exactly.
Makes me think of Through the Looking Glass.
Well, there you go. Yeah, but it's reversed images.
Mm-hmm.
We are in Plato's cave. You know, that's another thing to remember. We're upside down and backwards, and we're looking to get right side up. We want to get to the space in between the form. And that you know, that requires this elixir of immortality. We need to spin another direction. So right spin, right? The right spin being left ascension, sun rising in the west. We're looking at a window from the Durga temple at Karnataka. I'm so bad with names, I'm so sorry.
Karnataka, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think so. It's an 18th century painting in the center of Durga slaying the buffalo demon. I'm going to tell you the story in a second of this buffalo demon. Notice the buffalo's head faces the other direction. You know, the heavenly bull turns around. Durga is a major Hindu goddess worshipped as a principal aspect of the mother goddess, you know, the womb again. She herself is viewed as the self within and the divine mother of all creation. So again, she's riding the tiger, she's riding the feline. And in a way, you can almost think of her as like the womb of night, that basically weaves the world into being. So here's the story of Durga killing the beast. So Mahishasura, obviously one of the demons, king of the Asuras, wants to defeat the Devas in a battle, so he goes to the mountains to pray to Brahma for help. He asks for immortality, but Brahma tells him that this is impossible. So he asks Brahma for the power to not be killed by either man or God. Brahma agrees, and he is granted invulnerability from both men and gods. After receiving this gift, he goes on a rampage through both heaven and earth that resulted in him conquering both realms, and the Devas having to retreat into the mountains. Now, the Devas, again, are the feminine, and they're moving into the mountains. They're retreating, which is, we are now in a patriarchal spin, right? Once there, the deities combine their powers and give them to Durga. Durga, wielding the weapons of the gods, goes to battle against Mahishasura, riding a lion. Durga cuts off the head of the buffalo demon and kills him with her mighty sword. Durga can do this because she is neither man nor god, but a goddess. And again, I think this is speaking to the return of the divine feminine. And of course, the swastika spin that is reversed from the normal spin that we see the swastika is turning in, it's basically the left ascension spin. So I found this interesting. I found this image of a pillow inscribed with this same reversal of spin of the swastika. And it's a pillow cover offered by the Girls Club in the Ladies' Home Journal in 1912. I just found it fascinating. So the feminine spin, if you will.
And this is not Nazi,
not. No, the Nazis just took something that was an ancient sacred symbol.
This is 21 years before the rise of the Nazis.
Exactly. The symbol of that spinning, that swastika, is an ancient symbol. We've seen it we've seen it everywhere. You and I, even, Alan, in India, in Lebanon at Baalbek.
It's all over the world. It's in prehistory. It's in cave paintings.
Everywhere. It's in Egypt. It's exactly because it's about the spin of the heavens, and it's in cave paintings, and it's on the walls, and it's everywhere because something huge happened in our past about 12,000 years ago, and it was a reversal of spin. And so we had to build the stone circles and start marking time and space again, because we had a whole entirely different sky, a different spin to look at, and possibly the southern hemisphere spin. We might have been looking down instead of up, because that reversal probably came with a polar flip. So these are the things, again, we're going to be talking about. So here again is an image, a statue of Durga killing the bowl of heaven, the circumpolar spin, if you will. And the sculpture dates back to the 12th century and most likely comes from the Bengal or Assam regions of India, where Shaktism is most popular. Shaktism itself is a sect of Hinduism that believes that the universe is feminine and believes Devi are the supreme divinity. Shakti teachings are seen as complementary to Shaivism teachings, as Shiva represents the male and Shakti represents the female. So here we have these doctrines focus on the difference between physical matter and spirit, the form and the formless realms. So what would that mean for us if, spinning in a right ascension, spinning, where the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, gives us this patriarchal spin, this spinning into form. What happens if right ascension spins us into the non-material realms? That would be an entirely different way. It's a right brain way of understanding, of perceiving, of consciously moving through, navigating this reality. And that is in a way that we feel connected to everything that is. And it explains so much how the ancient symbolism emerges. because they were connected. How did they build these megalithic structures? Because they were connected and they knew how to move energy, how to manipulate, electromagnetic energy. It's and again, we're going to discuss this in more depth in the future. But just to start introducing these ideas, it's mind blowing. But what if it's possible?
Mm.
So this is an image. I took these pictures at St. Patrick's Chapel at Glastonbury Abbey, one of my favorite places in Glastonbury, but even in England. It's just such an amazing place to go. But this is St. Brigid with her spindle and bowl of fire. See what you're looking at, you can see the bowl, you can see the bowl of fire, and you see the spindle. And the spindle represents air, wind, right? And she is the water, right? She is that. She is the currency. This is the divine feminine currency. She's the exalted one. She was the Irish goddess of spring, fertility, and life. She was the master of both healing and smithing. And many of Ireland's wells and waterways were devoted to her. She's the currency. She's Tefnut, right?
Hmm.
She's water. That's what Tefnut is. Oh, and here are our dragons. Aren't they cute? I saw this, and of course I took a picture of this. It's just so beautiful. It's Mary Magdalene. And you see the Holy Grail at her feet.
Mm-hmm.
This is the heart. And the feminine currency is quite interesting because it can be nurturing like Hathor, right? We've talked about this, the nurturing currents.
Or it can be destructive like Sekhmet.
Or be just exactly, which are the fierce rays of the sun, causing the earth's currents to be fierce, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is how the feminine has been described, right? This is the divine feminine. So the Bible twice teaches that Saint Mary Magdalene was possessed by 7 unclean spirits. Well, these are your, they're dragons, right? But is that just their way of expressing currency that is Sekhmet, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of currency is needed, right? That Sekhmet is responsible for the destruction that brings about healing, right?
Right, like a natural forest fire. I know we see a lot of unnatural forest fires lately, but a natural forest fire clears the path for new growth.
Exactly. And Sekhmet basically clears a path for a new earth. Any catastrophe, you could say, but when the sun's flares, solar flares come down, it's disturbing, but it in a way is it healing. That the volcanoes provide the richness, the magma that basically adds the fertilizer to the earth, right? It's all generated by these cycles that are inherent in the patterns of how we perceive this reality.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I ask, is there a deeper meaning here? Absolutely. And we talked about the Magdalene, right? So, these currents can be like the dragons, the dragon Loch Ness monster, right? Which is basically on the, it's a geopathic stress zone. So there's that negative, that furious currency caused by the dragon, right? And that again is, this is the Magdalene, this is the currency. These are powerful lines for healing, both destructive and nurturing ways.
Yeah.
So here again, we have the divine feminine, and this is Qadesh. But we see her as with many different names. It's Hathor, and she's riding the lion, right? Line and Lion. It's the lion, like this currency. And in one hand, she has a bunch of lotuses, and the other, she's got a serpent, and the serpent is in her left hand, which is interesting. So yeah, it's about the currency. So this was interesting for me. According to many Kabbalists, I don't even know how to pronounce this, QLIP, Qliphoth was created at the fall, and this released the red dragon. the original serpent. Interesting, the original serpent. So is that the dragon in the heavens, or the dragon line? Was that the ancient magnetic equator? What's fascinating is in this image of the clip-off, you see the tree of death underneath the tree of life. And the image next to it is also fascinating because, you know, this tree of death, that's where we're at now. We're the seeds planted in the earth. We've talked about this. The hanged man, right? Upside down and backwards. It's time, you know, to flip that, you know, to rise again from the dead, you know, the resurrection. And so I bring this image back again, the Scottish coat of arms, because again, it's so fascinating. So many aspects of it. The red dragon at the top, you know, he's basically harnessing both sides.
Oh, yeah.
You have the, you know, the beautiful unicorn representing the divine feminine, and it's chained, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the lion representing the masculine, the warrior archetype. And in the center, we have the red dragon. And that red dragon is Draco above and the ancient magnetic equator below, in my opinion. It said the dragon rules over the world, both matter and heavenly bodies, right? What we see above is happening below. It's the Ouroboros, it's Draco, and it's about the spin of the earth, as I was just talking about. We have this, you know, this, you see that beautiful image of the two hemispheres of the brain? That came from Turkey, you know, from 10, 12,000 years ago. You know, this is something expressing the same thing we see with the Cobra lines going across the heads of the pharaohs.
Mm-hmm.
That sine wave pattern, separate, you know, the two hemispheres of the brain. It's that serpent line. It's our Kundalini rising and falling. It falls and then reverses direction and rises, right? The amrita, if you will, the sweet pineal fluid that goes down and then rise. You know, all of these things are the same patterns and dynamics, which is really mind-blowing when you think about it. There's our serpent in the heavens, and the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, the Big Bear and the Little Bear.
Right, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. We should point out again that if the Earth were not tilted on its axis 23.5 degrees, if it were pointing straight up and down, our true north is an area of the sky right in the center of the constellation Draco. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about the dragon in the sky.
Well, exactly. The eye nebula, cat's eye nebula, if you will. Cat's eye. Why did they call it the cat's eye? That's where our ecliptic pole is. So yeah, when the jet is raised, it's pointing to that point. And it is within the coil of Draco. And this is from Revelation in the Bible, which is what? About the up and coming destruction, you know, global catastrophe. Or, you know, is it?
Well, the apocalypse, the unveiling.
The unveiling, exactly. Thank you.
Which isn't that the age of Aquarius, when all the secrets are released from the container?
You're right on target. We're going to see them really soon. So yes, from Revelation, and another sign appeared in the heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. 7 heads, the pole stars, right? And on his head 7 diadems. These are crowns. His tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. The horns I find fascinating, and I don't think they are comets, but I thought, you know, it's interesting that if, you know, it could be 7 comets coming to hit the earth. You know, there are different ways. I'm open-minded.
Well, it's interesting that the word horn is, you know, the sound is hor as well, like we've been pointing out again and again. The HOR is the magnetic line.
Exactly. And horn is the word for what? It's something that makes sound. So yeah, many things we can talk about. And then we see this interesting old image of a woman who has an interesting beehive crown. We'll talk about in a future episode. And she's riding this dragon because, of course, she's the divine feminine. And it looks like in her hand she has the Holy Grail. So is this Mary Magdalene? Right?
Is this the whore of Babylon?
It just might be. So again, Mary Magdalene is said to have been a whore. I think mistranslation. But even given that, here we have what the whore of Babylon, basically. Mary Magdalene, all dressed in red and riding the red dragon, and holding what? The Grail is the heart. So what are we looking at?
Right, the heart of the Taurus field, the center of
exactly
from
the
which
heart,
everything comes and everything goes back to.
exactly, and we're all searching for it. Our center. Centering is how we bring ourselves back into harmonic resonance. It's that divine place of no time and space, and she's holding that. She is the conduit of that. And I think Sekhmet was too. So there we have it. Every end is a new beginning. We've talked about that. It's, here we have, it says in Revelations, its tail, we just said this, its tail drags a third of the stars of heaven, and it hurled them down to earth. And the dragon kept standing before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she did give birth, it might devour her child. Now, this is Virgo, if you will. Isis is Virgo. She's the virgin that gives birth to the divine child. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Interesting. The 1,000 days are years. Is it days or years? It's time periods of peace that people talk about.
So on the ceiling of Dendera, when you, I know we're getting a little ahead of myself, but when you do the crossing, when we go to the age of Leo, right? We're actually don't experience Leo, but go straight to Virgo.
Yes, we do. And we cross at Aquarius. And yeah, this is important stuff. And we'll probably even do a whole episode just on the Dendera ceiling that you're talking about.
So when we do the flip at the beginning of Aquarius, that actually takes us to the end of Leo, where we are at the beginning of Virgo.
Yep. And that may sound absolutely crazy, but I'm going to show you how that works in the next episode. And it's so dynamic and it's so unbelievable. But again, things we need to remember. If we're in the northern hemisphere looking up, we will are beginning to see Aquarius rise on the horizon. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, anywhere on this planet, you are seeing Leo rise on the horizon.
Holy shit. So we start the age of Virgo. The Virgin is pregnant with the new Horus.
Yes.
Just like the Virgin Mary gives birth to Jesus.
Yes.
This is the start of the matriarchal spin.
This is the start of the matriarchal spin. 100%. And she is Virgo. And all we have to do is have a polar flip. Our magnetic field flips and everything changes. Perception of reality changes, and we begin to rise into a right-brained understanding of reality.
Wow, I suddenly just realized everything you've been telling me for years.
Yay! It's so hard. I have to put all of this information together, and it seems like sometimes I'm repeating myself, but I had to build us up to this point so that you totally get what it is I'm talking about. It's mind-blowing, but it can't be any other way. So let's continue. I've got so much evidence, it's gonna blow your mind. So again, here is that birthing, the royal birth couch when Horus is born, and he's born what? He's riding the lion. Because this is, this again is that energy, the magnetic currents, the grids that make up our illusion of material world.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, And is this the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant? Well, of course it is.
And our
Right?
illusion of time is actually a perception of movement.
Yes. Yep. So after the stars sang together, after everything that just happened, the stars sang together and all was primeval harmony. There we go, harmonic resonance. And the material lie, the illusion, the dragon, made war upon the spiritual idea. But this only impelled the idea to rise the zenith of demonstration, destroying sin, sickness, death, and to be caught up into God, be found in its divine principle. Harmonic resonance, perfection, stillness, knowing, gnosis, everything.
0 point, perfect balance.
Exactly. This is
The
revelation.
Holy Grail, the center. Yeah, it's all the same thing.
It's been in our stories forever, and we didn't know.
It's in front of our face.
It's right there. But how could we know when we're given all these other stupid things to believe? Sorry. But as I started, you've known me for years, and I keep saying it can't be any other way. I've had all this material, in my folders, and how else to bring it out but in this series. And I hope people can just keep sticking with us, because it just is going to get better and better. So again, we saw these in our last episode, but it really is important because, I'm going to say it again. This is about basically ninth in a way, but it's from the temple of Esna. And it's she who arose from none, nothing, that beautiful divine place of complete harmonic resonance. She arose as the living serpent, sovereign. The breath of the earth is under her command. The breath, right? Currency. She who arrived as one and created millions. Currency. There was no other except her. No God completed in her image. She who conceives plans, who came about in the beginning, who sits upon her throne in Esna in Upper Egypt. This is what's written on the column in Esna. She is the Uraeus. There we have it. Right? The magnetic equator that runs across our own brain, right? Right.
Our own two hemispheres.
But also the two hemispheres of the earth. Who came about before them all. She who began existence. The breath happens where the Sphinx and the Giza Plateau are. That is the breath of life. When no beings existed, all that exists came into being after she came into existence. She is that great womb. And I actually found this recently posted on social media, and I just love it because this was given to us by Dr. Fawzi Rashid, and it's from the Sumerian texts. And you see that image in the very top of that image in the center. The word for Amma, the word for mother is Amma, and the glyph for it is basically the star in the house. Right? The seed star, right? In the house. Well, this is Hathor's name on the bottom, and it is the star, the seed, the whore, right? The whore inside the container, the place of the whore, the womb. It's always the same no matter where you are. And he says, did you know that the word mother in Sumerian language in Iraq is written in the same way as the symbol of God? Where the symbol dedicated to God in the Sumerian language, the star, is placed inside the image of the house to indicate that the status and position of the mother is the same as that of God. And she was called the housewife, and the term housewife is still called the mother in different regions around the world today. Again, remnants from an ancient knowing that it is the great feminine womb, currency, right, comes, how it becomes matter. Our illusion of material world in motion. Here it is, our illusion of a material world in motion. It's nice, the great mother. And it is she who spans to the very ends of all of this in her true body, in her name of linear eternity. Linear eternity. Before this, there is infinity, there is Amrita, there is immortality. But linear eternity is cycles within cycles within cycles. So people ask, is there ever any way out of this, these patterns and these cycles? And there is. Centering, all we need to do is center ourselves. So how great of plans for all time. The red and white crowns are for her Ka. The uraeus is inscribed with her hieroglyph. And so the Ka, the life force, the red and white crowns are for her Ka. So the red and white representing Upper and Lower Egypt. And remember Khafre, Ka'abra, right in front of the Sphinx? This is that line, right? The red and white crowns are for her Ka, the life force of the planet. This should be a sine wave going across, right? That's the ancient magnetic equator that splits to form our perception of reality. Here's an image, another ivory representation of the birth of Horus from East Persia in the 8th century. So in 800 AD, they're still showing, these are Egyptian figures with the double crown. And it's basically they say two genies spread their wings on a lotus flower. It's rebirth into form through the virginal purity of the veil, of the watery weave form of the womb or the Taurus field. This is why the wings of Isis and Nebhet are the veil we are born into. It's our magnetic field. It's where consciousness exists.
Right.
And I just like to show this again, just to keep our minds fresh, where this ancient magnetic equator ran, not just through Egypt, but in all these sacred sites worldwide. From Easter Island, the Nazca Lines, Angkor Wat, Petra, just so many different places, and of course right through Giza Plateau, and it's just in Sila, yeah, just incredible.
And of course, remember that it forms a sine wave on a flat map, but on a globe, it's a straight line.
Well, exactly. So I brought that sine wave to life. But yes. And the same with the path of the sun on the ecliptic. And it's my feeling that the path of the sun and the ancient magnetic equator were one and the same as everything spins into being. And then as it splits, that shifts. And now the sun basically moves between the tropics of Cancer and the tropics of Capricorn. So, and that's all part of my story from Dendera Sealing, because why are they named the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn? Because these are the game-changing moments when we spin into form. Because it happens when we spin into form, the last reversal, we move from Capricorn, which is unicorn, right? It's the unicorn. It's that highest state of consciousness.
Unified consciousness, yeah.
Exactly. But then we go through the portal to Cancer, where we begin again, marking time and space.
Right, which is like we discussed, the Kepler beetle.
Exactly. And this, I'm going to go into great detail. You're going to see more all about this and how this works, along with an emblem from the Vatican that shows it in perfection. It's just incredible, as I keep saying. But it is on the ceiling at Dendera, and it's just beautiful to see. And with all the symbols and the imagery surrounding it, you find out. When I saw this, it was like 10 years ago. And I was just like, at first I couldn't say anything to anyone because I thought they'd think I was totally nuts. And I think, most of the people watching this may think I'm totally nuts. But I started talking about it and showing people, and the story is all through Egypt. So on my tours, I point everything out. And by the time we get to even Kamumbo, people are already saying, okay, I see it now. There it is. Because it's all there. But anyway, I digress. Back to the red dragon. The red dragon has 7 heads, pole stars, chakras, right? Within our body, within the earth. The earth has chakras. Handing the baton to the divine feminine. So Satan, and this is all, the Satan, the dragon, set on the left. It's set, right? gives the beast of the sea, currency, right? The mare, currency on the right, power represented by a scepter. That's a lotus on top.
Right, the fleur-de-lis.
The fleur-de-lis, yeah, which is a design based on the lotus.
Mm-hmm. The
Represented by
same Taurus field aspect.
exactly. And not straight up and down, if you will. It's tilted.
Oh, you're right.
Power represented by a scepter in a detail of a panel of the medieval French apocalypse tapestry produced between 1377 and 1382. So the dragon's handing the baton to the lions, the felines, right? To the divine feminine. The dragon is often understood as the starry constellation Draco, and by extension, it represents the cosmic axis equivalent to the North-South Pole, because this constellation coils around the North Star and thus around the celestial axis, as well as it has the ecliptic pole within its coil. So it is that which explains our dynamic of, the tilting and coming back to center and then tilting. Again, so as it intersects the northernmost part of the celestial sphere. So Draco is that important. When you said dragons are everywhere, well, yes, without a doubt. Serpents and dragons and lions. Oh my, it's what it's all about. And this is also at Dendera in the upper chamber. And unfortunately, they're cleaning these rooms now. And soon you're going to see this so much better. But they haven't gotten to this room yet. It's in one of the Osiris chapels. And what we see is Taret is the hippopotamus, who she's up there associated with the Big Dipper and Draco and that whole, north, circumpolar spin. And we see Wenit, which is the rabbit. She's the rabbit in the moon. She represents the circumpolar spin of the southern hemisphere. Mm-hmm. And what you see is basically Taret handing the seed of consciousness. The
Kepler beetle.
She's handing the baton to Wenit, right? Hey, yeah. It's there. You can't make this stuff up. And of course, Wenit is sitting on her throne. So important. She's the rabbit, the fertility of the earth, right? And everything's about to go back. South is up. The Nile River is the only major river in the world that goes north. Upper Egypt is in the south. They tell us south is up. This is an image on the left, a beautiful image by Walter Russell. Again, my hero. He gets all this stuff. He got all this stuff. So he says, you might not be able to see it, but he says, this is how matter is born. And it's union of the masculine and the feminine, that coming together. And look, sparks fly, because what's going to happen? The spark of life to give birth. And you're seeing on the bottom, he has the equator going through the dual opposing wave spin. And the red and the blue charges, the currency. And this is how it's done over and over again. So I put this little chart up here in the upper right corner, and it's literally speaking of how let's say we begin at unity consciousness, right? And then we fall into form. So this happens with the union that gives birth, and birth is separation, right? So this begins separation consciousness. And then we have this, as we fall into form, we get as far as the breath can go out, and we have reversal. We have to breathe back in again. And this moves us then, we move up into the formless, back to unicorn, right? Un. Un is the highest, that moment of silence. And we have, that is reunion. And then boom, we start all over again. Reunion again will bring us back into creating form and separation. Creation is separation, but we will dissolve into the formless again.
Well, and one full processional cycle is 26,000 years.
Or 24. Again, there are different ways of looking at this, but there are many people who've studied the Vedic cosmology that agree that it's 24,000 years.
Well, however long the cycle is, there are two pauses
Yes,
along the cycle
exactly.
at equal intervals every
Exactly.
12,000 or every 13,000 years. We
That's what I'm
stop
getting.
and go the other direction.
Exactly. Left brain, right brain. But in between, it's a falling. So when we come out of unity consciousness, that's our high, that's a moment of silence, but it's our highest state of consciousness. And that begins the fall, right? So at reunion, we have that gnosis, but then we fall. And as we fall, we move from right brain back into left brain. But then as we reverse, we start to move from left brain into right brain. And when we get all the way to, to the bottom, then we are totally right brain, totally connected, living our bliss, and boom, we reverse again.
And just so people are clear, where are we right now, in your opinion?
Rock bottom. We are just about at reversal. And yes, again, these are things we're going to continue.
You're saying we are as separated can be in terms of consciousness.
We are pointing toward polarity. We are so separated and isolated from each other. We have totally identified with our bodies. It honestly can't be any other way. We're 12,000 years from the last global, I hate to call it catastrophe. I love the word catastrophe, but it's only a catastrophe depending on your level of consciousness. It's a reversal. It's a change of breath. We breathe out. There is no death. This is the most important thing to remember. So not to get worried, and it's not, may not happen tomorrow. It might, if you talk to some astrophysicists, they might say, yeah. So again, we're gonna go further into this, but I'm introducing these ideas because it's essential to understand what I'm talking about as we move forward. And again, this is a journey of perception. If you think that everything is real and you think about the earth reversing its spin and all of these things, of course, your material brain with your limited senses, and mine as well, would say, oh my God, that can't happen because, everything would burn up and the earth would be gone. But again, science is only looking at matter and they're forgetting about the space in between and the patterns and how consciousness changes as we are moving through procession. And these are the things that need to be remembered. Consciousness changes. We move from right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain, and that changes the way we perceive everything. And again, I'm even by saying that, speaking in terms of material. So we are limited because we are in form and we're at rock bottom. But Aquarius, moving into Aquarius, is the Great Awakening, and it's a sign that is all about connectedness. So we're beginning to feel the currents again. Aquarius is the master of the nature of water. It's understanding currency. And as you pointed out, this is when the containers start releasing the water. So we're beginning to feel and understand these things. We're seeing patterns. We're feeling the patterns. We're feeling energy. We can go to a sacred site and feel the powerful energy that makes us, it's euphoric, and so much more. So back to dragons. The harvestless Hanuti are the undertakers, according to Hakim. And the Hanuti he refers to are the ancient priests. He was, and especially targeting the priests of Amun that started around the age of Taurus when we fell into form. It was the priests who became the power behind the throne. And so I have this picture. Again, we have that beehive crown. So the masculine is taking the crown of the feminine, right? Who was the queen bee? Ninth. We did a whole thing on Ninth early on in these podcasts. And she was the queen bee of Sate.
Right, and her dress is the honeycomb pattern, the flower of life.
The beehive dress, exactly, which is the sixth, the the hexagon.
Yeah, hexagons. Which is actually the most efficient shape for building.
Exactly. I just
Couldn't
read
get the
that.
words out.
Your post, yes, which is fascinating. I'm also pointing out that beehive crown looks very much like the fetish of Osiris that represents this resurrection of Osiris. It's the head of Osiris.
Oh yeah.
And look at the bottom again of this image on the far right of the two lions back to back on that axis. You know, isn't that fascinating? This lion imagery, really important, because it's all about magnetics. When that axis begins to spin again, that's an electromagnetic process that begins, you know, from the heart, suddenly spinning everything back into life again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And spinning, you know, that's when Knife weaves her web, the magnetic field. But anyway, back to the Hanut. Hakim called them the Hanut or Hanuti, the undertakers who first convince us that we are mortal and judged. They begin to collect money, currency, from us to save our souls and maintain order. We identify with our bodies and lose touch with our own connection to all that is. Now is the time when this reverses again, but it doesn't happen overnight. We have another 12,000 years to find our way back to unity, do we? One should know the patterns. See, this is the key in full. But this will be the rising of awareness and the path to peace and balance. So, keeping that in mind, the dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. You know, the masculine took over the throne. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but it had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. So again, fascinating stuff. This is from Revelation. So many different ways to look at this. But I think the currency, the divine feminine, is now part of the earth currents, right? It's hidden in the earth currents, and the masculine sits on the throne. And it becomes the patriarchal spin. And I'm not talking about men and women. I have to keep saying that. I'm talking about positive charge, negative charge, right brain, left brain, intuitive, creative, connected side, and the separated, practical, pragmatic, you know, the analytical side, which unfortunately so many have applied masculine, feminine to, but it all makes sense on a deeper level.
Well, think of it like a yin yang. Everything is both masculine and feminine, and every masculine has an aspect of the feminine in it.
Yep.
And vice versa.
Exactly.
And that creates perfect balance.
Well, exactly. And we have to experience both. That's the key. That's why we spin both ways. How do we find our balance? How do we find our center if we don't understand both the right ascension, left ascension, both sides of self, so we can transmute the polarity and find our harmonic resonance? That's the key. That's walking the center path of every temple. You know, one side is always going to be the masculine, the other side is the feminine, left and right. And, you know, you're walking that Stargate path is the centering line all the way back to the Holy of Holies. They really have it within structure, symbolism, mythology. They've got it everywhere. So the thinning of the veil of Isis, right, this magnetic field
the
of
wings
the earth.
that we see in all of the iconography.
Exactly. The magnetic field of the earth, which has decreased in strength by 20 to 30%. It's pretty much agreed upon in the last 160 years. And I believe we're losing like 5% per year now, 5 to 10% per year, along with an increase in solar activity. This is huge. It's causing much agitation in human and non-human behavior. So our animals, you notice, you know, all the shark attacks, the alligator attacks, the bears, and, you know, and cougars. Somebody got attacked by a cougar, and this is happening worldwide. Animals are freaking out. The sharks and the whales that are bumping the boats everywhere, not just off the coast of Spain, but I heard about up in the northern, was it the North Sea? It's happening everywhere because the currency, the veil is leaving, the radiation is coming in, and it sparks our emotions. It affects our health. We're going to talk more about this, I promise. But these are things to start thinking about. We need to really become our healthiest as we move through this time period. Do our best to become healthier. And so, again, this is from Revelation. And you see this image. Satan, Set, is hurled to earth by Michael and his angels. He is thrown in the abyss, and this is from Revelation, by a single unnamed angel. And so here you see, he's basically, and I talked about, that Draco, that actually Set, when his battle with one of his battles with Horus grabs the leg of the bull and throws it across the heavens to where it's contained in the circumpolar spin. Well, sometimes Set is also related to Draco, also contained in the circumpolar spin. And so, when you think as above, so below, it's that chaos within us. Set is basically the spirit in the stone. Remember, we did King Arthur's spirit in the stone, and Arthur, the innocence of youth, Horus rather, or Arthur, gets to pull that sword out, the spirit, release the spirit from its container. But this in Revelation is showing that the spirit is, the Set, the dragon, is being thrown into the container. He is within all of us. He's not only contained in the circumpolar spin, he's contained with all of us. And it is Horus, basically, that stills the beast. He kills the beast. And again, is this imagery correct? Because we see also imagery where he is mastering the beasts. He's not killing them, he's mastering them, the Sippus of Horus. And he's transmuting his polarity, which brings the stillness. But here you see him and with a lion walking beside his foot, and he's killing the serpent. This is said, at sunrise, when we move into the new dawn of a new day cycle. And it said this is in order to make it out of the Akhet, the horizon, and back into the sky again, into the heavens. So this interesting interplay between, these beasts and the release of the beast. And the beast, the most important point I'm trying to make here is the beast is the currency. It's the chaos within. It's the chaos we see without. The beast is alive on earth. We see it right now everywhere. It's everything. It's our disease. It's what's happening in the world. It's the heat waves and the fires and all of these things. These are the beasts. This is currency out of control. And how do we calm the beast? But we come back to a place of silence. Over Horus's head there on the right, you see the sun disk. And that's noon, that's Un, that's coming to a place of silence to stop the chaos. So here I have it. The beast is said to be Set, who represented Isfet, chaos. However, this beast is actually Draco and represents the eternally spiraling cycles of time and space. During one of his battles with Set, he yanks off the left leg of Set as the bull and hurls it across the heavens to be eternally trapped within the circumpolar stars, which the Big Dipper and the constellation of Draco are constantly spinning around as the tilted Earth points toward ever-changing points within this circle of never-setting stars and empty spaces when we look up in the northern hemisphere. This leg is set as Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, called its Mishkanu, and was guarded by the imperishable stars in the northern sky, which prevented him from getting to Osiris in the southern sky. Are these the stars that are hurled down by his tail? Interesting. See, it plays a major role throughout ancient Egyptian symbolism and mythology. The opening of the mouth tool is patterned after this Big Dipper as well. The 7 northern circumpolar stars that form the adze or foreleg of the bull symbolized eternal life. It also serves as our spinning timekeeper in the sky, which tells us where our North Pole is. So if these stars fall to Earth, doesn't that mean we have a moment of silence? Okay, so when you look at the image on the left, which is said to be Amun Nacht, a combination of the netters Amun and Horus killing the beast, they're killing the beast as a hippo. And again, that hippo is Taret,
Right.
and she is related to everything that we just talked about.
She's the spin.
She is the spin. And, you know, we've shown you the images, some of the images from the walls at Edfu that also show this great battle between Horus and the hippo, basically said to be Set at this point. But it is the chaos. It's the chaos of the spin. And these are the dragons, right? You know, serpents, lions, dragons. Oh my, it's currency.
And at Edfu, we even see the little hippo that he's slaying turn over in different stages.
Exactly. It's mind-blowing. When you really understand what it is, the depth of meaning, so different from what they're telling you, you know, the translation to the public. You know, it's basically two different stories. And here again, we've seen this image before. Set's killing the beast this time. Wow, how did that happen? Because
they're spinning the other way.
Well, this is it, exactly. So now this is at sunset. You know, when we fall into form, then Set kills the beast. You know, this was Apep, commonly believed to have existed since the beginning of time in the waters of Nu, the primeval chaos. And so at the end of a day cycle, when the sun grows old and tired, Set is there to help the sun come to a close, another moment of silence. So yeah, exactly. Sunrise, horizon, and sunset. It's a story about currency, above and below, and consciousness. Apep is born from the womb of Knife as a pulsing, vibrating electromagnetic current. As he who was spat out, right? In an annual rite called the banishing of chaos, this is interesting, priests would build an effigy of Apep that was thought to contain all of the evil and darkness in Egypt and burn it to protect everyone from Apep's evil for another cycle of the sun. So, you know, killing this beast, killing this everything we don't like in the world, basically, you know, it's currency. It's all an illusion, and it's, you know, currency again can be good. It can, our terms, currency can't be good or bad. It just is. But we would define it as good when it hurts us, so it doesn't feel good, right? And we define it as nurturing when it makes us feel good. But that's our definitions. It's just currency.
Do you know what that makes me think of? I don't know if it's related or not, but setting off fireworks at New Year's.
Yeah.
Is it killing the beast? Is it seeding new life?
Spark of life. Yeah, seeding new life. That makes perfect sense to me. Cool. Really fascinating. So here we have our serpent with the 5 knives. Are they representing 5 cycles that come to a close? You know, we talked about the cycles of Kemet, you know, Keper, Ra, Un, Aten, you know, and Amun. Is that what we're talking about, or are we just talking about a pattern? But the serpent is the currency. And you remember I said at the height and nadir of every loop on the sine wave, there is a moment of silence.
Right.
The hieroglyph for Apep's name showing a serpent stabbed with 5 knives, yes, from the temple of Edfu, Ptolemaic times. So here's a Fucus, our buddy that masters the currents. He is Neheb Cow, and this is going to come into play again when we really go in depth on the ceiling of Dendera. The image on the far right is Neheb Cow on the ceiling of Dendera, and strangely enough, he is situated at Capricorn, right before we fall into Cancer.
Some people say he's the 13th sign of the zodiac.
Yes, exactly, because he is in the place between Scorpio and Sagittarius in the heavens that is the direct gateway or portal to the center of our galaxy. Really important. You can see the image of him in the stars, and it looks like he's the serpent bearer, and he is the serpent bearer portrayed in symbolism all over the world. It is that moment, you know, when we go directly back to center, and then we're spat out again, right? And what's fascinating is Neheb is the netter. He's serpent-headed netter, of course, who is responsible for attaching the Ba, the soul, and the Ka, the life force, into the body at birth. And he is there, and then you see him on the other side in Cancer, and you see the serpent basically being placed in form. Fascinating stuff. So this is the resurrection. Ophiuchus represents a big guy who figured out how to kill snakes and bring them back to life. Says it all, doesn't it?
Well put.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. And yet, after all that, there is no here and there. As above, so below. Time and space are illusions. It's only consciousness imagining in patterns. And this is from the ceiling at Esna. And you see the stages of the moon, 14 on the top, 14 on the bottom. And within these stages of the moon, you see the fullness of the moon. Look in the top section, in front of the lion, basically, right? The top right, actually. You see the full eye within the moon. That's the fullness of the moon, and it's going to wane into nothingness, right?
Oh, okay. The eye is the full moon, and the no eye is the new moon.
Exactly. So the beginning of the journey, we start at fullness, our highest state of consciousness, and then we start to lose that consciousness, that conscious awareness, our senses. We lose sensibility, our connectedness, and we go into separation mode, right? Until at the very end, we're at the very end of the new moon, and it's like the totally rock bottom, right? And then if you come to the lower level, we start at that point and we wax into fullness through the 14 stages. And at the very end, you see the full eye, and on top of that full eye, full moon, full-blown consciousness, there is an image of Thoth, Jehuti, the ibis bird. He is consciousness in himself, right? He's sitting on the throne.
He's sitting on a throne. He's holding
the eye, consciousness itself. That is the height of consciousness, unicorn, full-blown consciousness. But then we have a reversal. But it's a journey of consciousness, literally imagining life in patterns. So again, I've said it before, know the patterns and learn how to navigate them. Do we have to wait 12,000 years? Or can we transmute our polarity in one yogic breath? And I believe we can. But as mass consciousness, as where the earth stands today, we are moving toward another reversal, another, game-changing moment. And it is the Aquarius Leo portal, and it's a big one. So yeah, hold on to your fasten your seatbelts, as they say. And Alan Watts says it best: the only moment is now. We are living in a culture entirely hypnotized by the illusion of time, in which the so-called present moment is felt as nothing but an infinitesimal hairline between a causative past and an absorbingly important future. We have no present. Our consciousness is almost completely preoccupied with memory and expectation. We do not realize that there never was, is, nor will be any other experience than present experience. We are therefore out of touch with reality completely. And he's basically saying it. If we can just get back to center, to our now, to our present, we've got it. We found that place of pure bliss. And again,
it's like we're consciously avoiding center. we're going every which way but center.
We want to experience, right? And we want to experience the physical. you know, but do we want to be Lot's wife? And when the game-changing moment comes, do we look back with longing for the physical, or do we move into the next dimension of existence? And I'm ready to start moving into those wonderful years of peace. But just me.
Well, you know, to be honest, we've both had this experience now where we were presented with the opportunity to do this, and we failed that test and looked back, as it were.
Yes, that's true. And you're talking about some interesting experiences we had. Mine was an astral experience, and yours was a kind of astral experience as well. So some mind-blowing moments when, you know, you think you know what you're going to do. This takes preparedness. This takes really, really embodying what you think you know.
But we're in a time of preparation, and all of these things that are happening in our lives individually is preparing each one of us for this moment when we must make this choice.
Well, exactly. And just those experiences that you and I had were offering us, you know, that was a lesson. It's like, oh, we thought we knew what we'd do. But, you know, in the moment, it's you know, that's why they do the Tibet, you know, they keep talking, repeating the book of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you know, and even the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's really the book of the of going forth by day. It's learning how to move into the day. Nobody said it would be easy, but if you're willing to embrace the change and stop holding on to what you think is significant, you're in for the miracle of miracles. So, heck.
Just remember, nothing really matters.
There you go. I love that. Whoa, well done. Resurrection after the pause, after the moment of silence. This comes from Laird Scranton, and I've said it before, I'm a huge fan of Laird Scranton. And this is from his book, Amma and the Spark of the Universe. But he says in one of the classic themes of the ancient creation tradition, the processes of material creation begin with a sleeping goddess. Well, we've seen her at the face of the surface of the waters. The first glow of light just before the dawn hovers over the waters and induces the sleeping goddess to open her eyes and perceive the light. For the Dogon, the energetics of material creation begin with a superconductive domain where the wave-like action of electrical flow, masculine energy, is unresisted, and magnetic flux, feminine energy, lies dormant, right? The dormant feminine. An influx of energy in the form of a spark raises the electrical flow above the threshold necessary to evoke the magnetism and opens a kind of mouth or eye-shaped gateway. I love it. The two north-south magnetic poles bind with the electrical spark, and magnetic flux causes the three to rotate and extend, the definition of a spiral. So this is the resurrection after the pause that begins the rotation, one way or the other. That's on me, not him.
Well, this also describes the joining of a sperm and egg in conception.
Well, of course.
Yeah, everything is fractal.
It is fractal. It's fractal patterns. So yeah, in keeping with this outlook, the glyphs of an Egyptian word, res, meaning to wake up, read mouse-shaped gateway binds and rotates, followed by the image of an awakening eye. So there you have it, to wake up. See the spiral, see the mouth. And so it's coming back through the mouth, you know, spiraling into conscious, you know, awareness of form and matter. So yeah, love it. I love it when everything says the same thing. And this is from Chaco Canyon, which I've been to numerous times. I love it there. And Fahada But, I don't know if I said that right, but this is there to show when the solstice comes. But again, it's more profound. It's that spark of life, which is the male energy, right? Bisecting the center of the spiral, which is the feminine womb. So it ignites the womb on summer solstice, marking the beginning of a new cycle. Isn't that beautiful?
Wow.
And it only happens at the summer solstice. So, and they had so many different things there that spoke to the stars. They were huge stargazers, in following the paths of the stars. And they were doing agricultural technologies and all kinds of things. Really fascinating place to go. And back to our Royal Arms of Scotland, which I find interesting because, you know, this is from the Crown and the Unicorn, and it says the truth of the chains around the unicorns is far less political. You know, we're chaining the feminine, right? Quite simply, in mythology, a free unicorn was considered to be extremely dangerous beast. The chains represent that they have been tamed, and the crowns around their necks represent that they belong to the king. Well, after everything we've just gone through, can you see that this is really something far more profound? This is the chaining of the divine feminine. In Scotland, there were huge witch hunts, and by witches I mean the women that knew the sacred arts of healing and herbalism and sacred dance. This was sacred ancient wisdom and knowledge. And this is what was stamped out. This is, they chained the feminine, right? And it's all part of the cycles. So yeah, I always say, oh, that sounds a little bit like propaganda. But, it's a different way of telling the story. And I think it's time to release the unicorn. Just my opinion.
Dangerous. And once again, this doesn't mean women in charge of everything.
No, it does not.
We're talking about sacred balance between masculine and feminine.
Heart-based.
Ma'at.
Heart-based living. Yes, bringing ourselves back into balance. We've been living from the mind. It's time to start living from the heart, to open our chest, reveal our hearts. This is what it's talking about, to get back to that connectedness to all that is. You don't kill your neighbor if you know the neighbor is a part of yourself. We've forgotten these things through our identification with our bodies. We've forgotten that we're just a small part of a we're like a droplet in the sea. It's been, that metaphor has been given many times. We're connected. We're all part of the same sea, and to remember these things and to restore balance. And again, I'm showing the fenced-in unicorn and his horn at the 23.5 degrees. He's fenced in. Because this is the feminine. The divine feminine is contained when we're out of balance in this, on a right ascension format. And the tree of life in the center is straight up and down. And it's really about bringing the two together. And there's symbols, you can't see it here, for the alpha and omega. The omega is within the triangle of the horn and the tree, and the alpha, wish I could see it. But anyway, it's there. The alpha is the seed. So that's at Stirling Castle in Scotland, a wonderful place to visit if you ever get the chance. So when I say free the unicorn, it's the seed, symbol of the original seed of the creative feminine womb, the heart. And it speaks to innocence, purity, boldness, pride, healing, joy, intelligence, virility, nurturing. It's about nurturing. It's only when you contain the beast, and that's set too. You contain the beast and you bring about inner chaos. We all are seeking freedom. And when you're contained, you just, you're like the cancer crab. You want out. You just want out. And I just put this in here because that, the idea of the unicorn goes way back. And this is from 575 BC. And it's called the Dragon of Marduk from the Ishtar Gate, the eighth gate to the inner city of Babylon, located in what is now modern Iraq. And it was built by the order of King Nebuchadnezzar. So yeah, isn't it just beautiful? And again, here is the divine feminine on the throne with the lions. And this comes from Turkey. I took it it's actually from Çatalhöyük. Just beautiful, the sacred feminine sitting on the throne with the lions, the felines. And here you see it's Tefnut or Sekhmet, but I believe it's Tefnut standing on the double-headed serpent, right? The ancient magnetic equator. And this is from the same Museum of Anatolia and the Civilizations. Look at this wonderful winged sun disk. And you see the Hathor hair, the omega symbol in the center, the divine womb of everything in that moment of stillness and silence at moon. It's all about currency, the patterns of the currents that make up our illusion of this reality. So there you have it. Next time it's going to get even more interesting because we're going to answer the question of how do you turn lead into gold. So yeah, we're going to get into a little alchemy, but I think you're going to love it. So
it's just fascinating how all the pieces are coming together. I mean,
good. That was my intention. And you can see again how I couldn't put this in a book. You need to see and feel this and grow into it, you know, and repeating some of the things I talk about is just building the knowledge. So anyway.
Well, thank you, Patricia. Thanks everybody for joining us. Our website is horusrising.com, and we will be back with a lot more very soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Allan.
Thanks.